Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmersday, February 14th, 2022. On the show today, news, listener questions, and in our main segment, Jim continues the history of EPCOT's CommuniCore attractions. Let's get started by bringing in the man who says that any couch can be a sofa bed if you just forgot your spouse on Valentine's Day. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
It's going well, Len. Speaking of sofa beds, I remember we just recently, the two of us, we went to the inspiring Walt Disney, the animation of French decor at the...
I went back this weekend, yeah.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I had like a couple days in New York before I was in Florida, but yeah, I went back with Laurel. It was great.
Cool. All right. So did you linger in front of the display for The Sofa, A Moral Tale?
I did, actually.
Oh, wow. Cool. All right. Well, to explain what Len's talking about, there's a story from 1742. They bring it into display because in Beauty and the Beast, you have people who are turned into objects who, the only way they're transformed back is an act of true love. And this story, A Sofa, A Moral Tale, pretty much has the same gimmick that a man is turned into a sofa. His soul is trapped inside of the sofa, and the only way his curse will be lifted is if, while he's a sofa, he views an act of true love.
Right.
I would honestly feel bad if the case if a sofa got trapped here in Nancy and my house, and waited for that thing. Because, to be honest, they choked to death on cat hair first.
When it says true love, and that could be the love between a man and a woman or a man and a deep dish pizza, Jim, right?
There you go.
I'm not sure that because there are times when I'm by myself here in Florida, Jim, and the pizza is the next best thing.
There we go.
The thing that I love about that particular painting, though, the one from the 18th century at the Met, is all of the symbolism that is in that painting. So I believe in the foreground of that painting, it's the sofa and then a suitor and the woman that he's going after on the couch. But then above that is like there's a painting in the painting above the couch. And it's like Mars and Venus. Is that it?
There you go.
There's a ton of stuff going on in that. It's great. It's great.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We are in the last few weeks of that exhibit before it heads over to London.
I think it is. Yeah. And there was a pretty decent line this past weekend when we went to get in. So Laurel and I got to the Met like right at 10 o'clock, and there was already a good 25-minute line to get through it. So, I mean, it's super popular. I would expect the Met to do other things. Also, remind me to talk about our friend Bethany Bemis at the end of this conversation. But the other thing that people really like, Jim, were Disney's Walt himself, his fascination with miniatures.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those were really interesting to see, too. Yeah.
Checked on the Metropolitan Museum of Art site. And yes, in fact, this exhibit ends on Sunday, March 6th.
Yeah, so you got a couple more weeks to get there, folks. If you're in the area, go ahead and do it. It's fabulous. Also, we mentioned our friend Bethany Bemis from the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History. Got in contact with Bethany last week, and the Smithsonian is asking people to send in their photos of them in Disney parks.
I saw that.
So let's tweet out that URL, Jim, from both of our accounts again once the show lands. And folks, yeah, if you've got any great family photos of you, your family in a domestic Disney theme park, so Disneyland, Walt Disney World, go ahead and send those into the Smithsonian. That's to prepare for an upcoming exhibit in 2023. Of course, we know what it is. Of course, we can't say yet, but it's going to be a blast. It'll be a lot of fun.
Cool.
All right, Jim, let's do a quick shout out to subscribers over at disneydish.bandcamp.com. Thanks to new subscribers Ward Seaster, Frank Joseph, and Derek Michaud, and longtime subscribers Dan at Smoky Mountain Magic, T.D. Anderson, and Nicholas Steinoff. Hey, Nick. Jim, these are the folks getting ready to play the stunt doubles for popular topiary at the upcoming EPCOT Flower and Garden Festival. So when a major display like Kermit the Frog has to go backstage for touch-up, these folks throw on Bermuda grass leggings and stand up on stage to keep the show going. They say every topiary has its own character, and Miracle Grow is an excellent conditioner. True story.
A little concerned about people sitting on stage with others coming at them with pinking shears.
Occupational hazard, Jim. Occupational hazard. That's what OSHA's for.
Okay.
All right, let's do the news. Jim, we got tons of news this week. And the Disney Dish News is brought to you by Storybook Destinations, trusted travel partner of the Disney Dish podcast. For a worry-free travel experience every time, book online at storybookdestinations.com. All right, Jim, first things first, Disney announced a 6-week delay to the launch of the Disney Wish cruise. And this doesn't affect our cruise, which we are going on September 23rd to the 26th. So that's still good, but it does affect the first 6 weeks of sailings. My understanding is it is a lift and move for the first two. So the inaugural cruise, the people who booked the inaugural cruise will still be on the inaugural cruise just 6 weeks later. And then there's a DVC cruise that is also a lift and ship for 6 weeks after that. The other 10 cruises got canceled. And actually, Jim, that was one of them. The July 18th was actually my first trip on the Wish. That got cruise, so I got to reschedule that.
Okay.
But that does mean that the our dates for the Disney Dish on the Disney Wish, September 23rd to the 26th, is now closer to being the initial launch. So that's good.
No, I agree. We get to live out that Titanic moment of you can still smell the fresh paint.
Exactly. All right, Jim. In other news, there was an earnings call this week with Disney, and Bob Chapek said, among other things, that further capacity increases are being limited by restaurant staffing and live entertainment constraints. Now, that's something we've been saying for a while. So, every show should begin with a round of self-congratulations. But we've got a number of emails this week, including one from Ryan and Kim in Houston, about the lack of resort availability in the fall. And I think this staffing shortage is what's keeping large chunks of resorts closed as well, because Disney doesn't want to sell hotel rooms to people who can't get into the parks, right?
You're not wrong. Yeah.
Also, that probably means if restaurant capacity is limited, it means we're not likely to see the return of the Disney dining plan anytime soon, because you're not going to sell dining plans to people who don't have places to eat, right? And then the other interesting thing that I noted in Chapek's comments were that somewhere between a third and a half of guests are purchasing Genie Plus and or individual Lightning Lane.
How many months now?
Since October. So October to November, December, January. Not quite January to February. So 4 months?
Yeah, all right. I would definitely want to take a poke at that number.
Yeah.
They've got 4 months worth of data. So, okay, if he's walking that out to the financial community, he must be confident in those numbers.
Yeah, fair. The thing that I'm interested there is this. Remember when FastPass was in use, right? So between 75 and 80% of a ride's capacity was allocated to FastPass. And what that did is drove up lines at the standby lines, right? It drove up wait times at the standby lines. And so when Disney introduced Genie Plus, it was, touted as a way to manage waits at popular attractions, right? And an alternative to it. By charging people for things, the thinking went, fewer people would buy it. Like only those people who really, really hated waiting in lines would buy it. And then consequently, the standby lines would be shorter than they were with FastPass Plus. If you're hitting 50%, though, you're awfully close to the 75 to 80% number that we had with FastPass. And so if Genie and individual Lightning Lanes get to the same ratio, if 75% of the people going into the parks buy Genie and individual Lightning Lane, Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lane, then we're basically back at where we were 3 years ago with FastPass Plus, but now it just costs money.
Yeah.
And if that's what they were going for, right? If that was literally it, they could have just said, hey, FastPass Plus is $15 from now on and saved, a ton of money in development. I'm not sure where we go from there. One option obviously is they could just keep increasing the price to keep the usage of Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lane at around 35%.
Just in the past week or so, we had that price increase for Amazon Prime.
Yeah, it was $20 it went up?
$20. So
whatever.
Yeah.
Honest to God, it could go. It was $139 now, right?
Yes. It
could go to $200 and I wouldn't care. Honest to God. I don't know what the upper limit is on what I would pay for Amazon Prime in a year. Definitely at $200, yeah. $300, almost certainly. $499, I might start thinking about it, but I love some Amazon Prime. Anyway, we're getting off topic.
There we go.
All right, Jim, let's do some listener questions. Here's one from Becky in the UK, who starts off with, thanks for all the brilliant content you guys produce. I think this was for someone else, Jim. I'm not sure.
Very true.
But we'll keep going.
Yeah.
We're hopefully going to Walt Disney World in April after having 2 trips postponed. We'll be traveling with our almost 5-year-old daughter and staying on property. We've been twice before, and we're huge FastPass Plus maximizers. As an obsessive Disney trip planner, I'm a bit concerned about our upcoming trip due to uncertainty around Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lane. Will we be okay with a touring plan in early entry, or do we need to buy into Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lanes to now have a good trip and see and do everything? The cost of this trip will be at least double the cost of our 2019 trip due to the lack of Disney discounts offered to UK guests, and the cost of adding Genie Plus on for our length of stay is another $400. All right. Thank you, Becky, for sending this in.
Mm-hmm.
So two things make this question interesting. One is that Becky's traveling in April, and Easter is really late this year. So Becky can still run into spring break crowds because Easter is April 17th. And then the second question that I had is whether Becky and her spouse will be going on any thrill rides individually without their daughter. So if they've got a 5-year-old, does the 5-year-old really want to go on Rise of the Resistance? So I'll break it down both ways.
Okay.
In January, Jim, you and I had our own Becky on the show, Becky Gandelon, who went over which Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lane attractions saved the most time in line. So for individual Lightning Lanes, our Becky thought it was these. Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, Rise of the Resistance, Frozen Ever After, Flight of Passage, and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Those are the most useful ones. And a good way of thinking about whether to buy an individual Lightning Lane is how much it's going to cost you for every hour you're saving. And that's good because a decent ballpark estimate is that you're spending around $15 an hour just to be in the parks. So anything that costs you less than $15 for every hour you save is a good deal. And based on that, individual Lightning Lane would make sense for Remy, Rise, Frozen, Flight of Passage, and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, but not Runaway Railway, Space Mountain, or Everest. Now, of course, Jim, you won't need individual Lightning Lanes for all of those if you arrive early and head to one of them first thing in the morning. The tricky part will be EPCOT because you've got both Remy and Frozen Ever After. But what I'd do there, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong here, I'd go to Remy first thing, get that out of the way, and then head on over to Frozen Ever After and see what the line is like there. And then I would decide whether to buy the individual Lightning Lane.
Also, don't we see a significant drop in the wait time for Frozen Ever After as we head into the afternoon, evening? I mean, as the crowds disperse and people head for dinner, that sort of thing? Or
yeah, I mean, very, very late it would be. The problem is that Epcot's big.
Yep.
And if you're not directly at Norway and you have to walk over there, it could be 20 minutes.
True.
And it's 20 minutes of walking plus X number of minutes going back to wherever you need to go after your ride. And at that point, you've spent 30 or 40 minutes walking. Did you even save 30 or 40 minutes in line?
Excellent point. Okay.
That's the tricky part there. And that's what we see too with the utility of evening or extended evening theme park hours in Epcot. Yeah, it's great that there's no one in the park for 2 hours. But if every ride is a 15-minute walk from another, right? And they're not, but right, it limits how many things you could get done, right?
Very true.
As for Genie Plus, Becky, because you're going during a busier time of the year, and we know that up to half the park guests are going to be using it, the standby lines are likely to be longer, so that probably makes sense. But I wouldn't buy it for every day of your trip. What I'd do is I'd buy it for the first day you're at the Magic Kingdom or the studios, whichever one of those two you go to first. And I would make that one of your first in-park days, and then see how it goes. If you think it's useful, then try it at another park and maybe Animal Kingdom. So Magic Kingdom, Studios, and Animal Kingdom. The other thing I would say is don't forget to enter your Genie Plus return times into your touring plan because the software will optimize around those return times now. And I'm working on some extra code now to make that even better. And it looks like with just a couple of key Genie Plus reservations, you can get most of your wait times under 25 minutes.
Wow.
Maybe with one wait of like 45 minutes on a busy day. And then that's where you can decide whether it's worth spending the $48 a day on Genie Plus. Also, UK Becky, if you want to talk to our Becky about this, just let me know.
Okay.
All right.
Meeting of the
From
minds.
this is we've just got a bunch of listener emails about Genie Plus. Here's one from an anonymous listener who we're going to call Gene, who says, on last week's episode, you were talking about the ratio of lightning lanes versus standby line that are moved forward at the merge point. When I was a cast member, we had specific guidelines for this based on how busy the park was going to be. Very busy days were called Phase 4 and would push at least 30 people from the FastPass line and then only a couple from standby. Phases were a park-wide determination, and our managers would let us know what phase we were in. It sounds like Lightning Lane uses something close to this ratio. Yeah, I'd be shocked if they were doing anything different. It's unfortunate that they're doing this because it really slows down the standby line, even if there aren't a ton of people in line. I also speculate that because wait times go up, more guests are inclined to buy Lightning Lane. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go open the Cinnabon store. Do you get the reference? Do you know what it is?
I'm sorry, I don't. What?
It's Gene is Saul Goodman in Better Call Saul. So when he goes into hiding, he becomes Gene and runs he's a manager of a Cinnabon store. And I mentioned that because there was a great interview with Bob Odenkirk yesterday in the New York Times.
I saw that. Yeah,
Really great. Yeah. It was funny because the New York Times was trying to describe what it was like filming the last couple days of Better Call Saul, but they couldn't give away any spoilers. So it's like I'm with some people in a house in the American Southwest. Okay.
How much vaguer can we make this?
Exactly. It was like Bob Odenkirk with these really, really specific memories, and then and then we headed west. Okay. Anyway, all right. More listener stuff. Our friends at WDW Magic reported on a Disney survey that asks this interesting question about Epcot. How would you rate your overall experience with Harmonious compared to your overall experience with Illumination's Reflections of Earth? Would you say that Harmonious was better, about the same, or worse? And Jim, let me just say, I have rarely heard of a more interesting Disney survey question than this.
Yes.
And let me just say too, Disney already knows the answer, right? All they have to do is compare survey results, right?
Yep.
So I went back and I looked at our survey results from touringplans.com and the unofficial guide. And here's what I've got. And remember, Jim, we break these down into 6 demographic groups, right? Preschoolers, grade schoolers, teens, young adults, the over 30 set, and then senior citizens. Okay. So Reflections of Earth got 3.8 stars out of 5 from preschoolers, 4.2 from grade schoolers, 4.3 from teens, 4.4 from young adults, 4.4 from over 30s, and 4.5 from seniors. And anything around 4.5 is really good. Anything above 4 is basically above average. So Reflections of Earth, except for preschoolers, was above average to very good for every demographic. Epcot Forever was lower for every single category, never higher than 4.1. And so every group rated it either 4.0 or 4.1. Harmonious actually gets higher ratings from preschoolers and grade schoolers. So 4.2 stars and 4.3 stars for preschoolers and grade schoolers. And then but the issue that we run into there is that so few guests are sending in surveys about Harmonious that the margin of error that we have for those numbers is pretty wide. So I'm confident saying that, yeah, preschoolers like Harmonious better than Reflections of Earth, but that's about it. But we can actually say the opposite. We can say that definitely young adults, over 30s, and seniors absolutely like Reflections of Earth more than Harmonious. Like the numbers are pretty clear on that. So at this point, Disney's got to know that, yeah, maybe preschoolers like Harmonious better, but the people making the decisions, right? The young adults, the over 30s, the seniors, the people who are making the decisions about where to go and what to see. And more importantly, Jim, the people who are spending the money don't like Harmonious as much as Reflections of Earth, right?
Yeah, and that prevents you from getting that second bite of the apple. The notion that people who would go to see it and then, say, tail end of their trip, return to Epcot for dinner, but also linger to see that show yet again.
So while I was looking at this, somebody asked about Wishes, Happily Ever After, and Enchantment. And so I pulled up those numbers too. And again, for Wishes and Happily Ever After, for each demographic group, we've got thousands of surveys, many thousands. Like I think for Wishes and Happily Ever After, for like adults, the over 30 group, we've got 11,000 survey results. So the margin of error for those numbers is literally like 1 or 2 hundredths of a point. If I say, for example, that Wishes and Happily Ever After get a 4.75 rating from the over 30 group, it's 4.75 plus or minus like 1/100th of a point. Our confidence intervals are very, very tight there. And what we can say, Jim, when we look at Wishes, Happily Ever After, and Enchantment, is that Wishes was the most beloved nighttime show that Disney's ever done, and Happily Ever After is right up there with it. Every age group rated it at least 4.5 stars. The grade schoolers, the teens, the young adults, and the over 30s gave it like 4.75 stars or higher, right? And that's about as good as you can get. That's approaching like Rise of the Resistance level ratings, right? As good as you're going to get for any nighttime show, right? But when we look at like Enchantment, the only thing we can say about that is Okay, maybe some preschoolers like it better, but every other age group rates Enchantment somewhere between 4/10 and 3/4 of a point worse than Wishes and Happily Ever After. Right? So it's clear to me, Jim, that anyone who's smart enough to graduate kindergarten thinks the other shows were better.
And let's not overlook the obvious. When you're 4 and 5, you haven't actually seen Wishes. You haven't even actually seen.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
All right, so I'll add, Jim, that I spoke with an insider this week about other surveys, and they added this. Survey results for Genie, so the trip planning service, have been disastrous. That, by the way, this is a quote. Far below the lowest expectations, alarm bells are ringing loudly. So, Jim, setting that aside, with the failure of Rivers of Light, this means Disney's now 0 for 3 on its latest round of nighttime events. Where do they go from here?
The thing that's particularly concerning to the folks at Walt Disney Entertainment is they spent an awful lot of money developing Harmonious.
Right.
And it's only been running 19 weeks at this point, not even a full 5 months. And they themselves commissioned the survey, Len, because they're looking for money now to overhaul the show.
Encanto.
Well, so interesting you say that, because think about this. Just yesterday, during the earnings call, Bob Chapek referred to Encanto not as an Academy Award-nominated film, but the company's next new franchise. All right?
Yes.
Look for them to lean into Encanto in a big way. And what's interesting about Harmonious, again, over 23-minute long show, the belief now is, first and foremost, they have to change the end, which ends with a ballad.
Yeah, it's flat.
Yeah.
What's the song?
Someday, which was originally written for Hunchback, which was released in theaters back in June of '96.
Okay, hold on. A song no one likes about from a movie no one saw?
Well, no, it gets better, Len, because Someday was actually cut from Hunchback because it was determined to be too downbeat. They actually replaced it in that movie. Stephen Schwartz and Alan Menken wrote another ballad called God Bless the Outcast.
So it's a song no one heard about a movie no one watched.
There we go.
Wow, that's a decision. All right.
You got to remember that the story that's come out consistently about Harmonious is they had an entirely different show developed. Bob Chapek came in and said, this is nice, but people like concerts. People like, couldn't we do a Disney highlight show? And so, the notion was that that's what they did. They put together Mulan, a Brave, Beauty and the Beast, that sort of thing. So right now, what they're hoping, once they get the survey results back, is they can then go to the resort and go, okay, this is what the survey is saying. We need to fix the show. We've identified the area we need to address, which is the show's finale. We now have Encanto, which is the first Disney animated feature in 29 years to produce a #1 of the country song. And what we'd like to do is do a repair job. Yeah. Put at least 2 songs from Encanto into the show, cut the finale. Now, mind you, that also means looking at new pyro for these 2 new numbers.
It's fine.
If they get the survey results they're hoping for, what they'd want to do is immediately pivot and start developing this new material. So the timeline I've been told is as early as this summer. In fact, might be a really interesting time to get a room over at the Beach Club.
Be up around midnight, maybe
there you go.
Drinking some decaf coffee and
right.
Getting out for pyro tests at Harmonious.
That's it, exactly. But the notion of test the pyro then, test the music then, with the idea that the new improved version of Harmonious would debut for the fall of this year. But again, that's all October conditional 1st. On getting the survey results that they hope.
I would bet money that they're going to get those results, yeah.
Supposedly, if we switch over to the marketing side, especially given that the 50th anniversary really has not caught on the way they had hoped, which that issue kind of got stepped over in the earnings call yesterday.
Yeah.
But a new promotional campaign for the resort that would be launched this fall that would obviously hype Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, which would also show the Encanto footage from Harmonious and tease the soon-to-be opening Tron Life Cycle Run.
Oh, that's right. So if Harmonious is reworked for October 1st, 2022, Guardians will already have opened because that's supposed to open this summer. We'll have the Encanto theme stuff in Harmonious. That'll be good. And then, they could tease Tron, which would be, I'm expecting Tron like fall 2022, very early 2023, depending on where they are in terms of financials and stuff like that.
That's it, exactly.
That makes sense. So what two songs would they pull from Encanto?
Obviously, just because they want to hear 10,000 people around World Showcase Lagoon all singing "We Don't Talk About Bruno."
Right. So that was the gimme. We knew that was one song, right?
But there is also the irony is the ballad from Encanto is the song that in fact got nominated or Disney presented for Best Song at this year's Academy Awards. So it's, in fact, that's the thing of entertainment is like, do we really need to do the ballad? Because didn't we just get in trouble with Someday? And more to the point, the ballad is also completely in Spanish.
They could say that, music brings us together as a family and then close with the family madrigal. Because that's a bop, as the kids say.
There we go.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
Just keep an eye on this, and more to the point, if you're at the beach club and you hear some pyro in August and September, please reach out to Len and myself, okay?
Yeah, definitely let me know.
Yep.
All right, one last question from our close personal friend, Chris Cox, who says, I'm considering a dining package option for Harmonious. On looking at the website, it only seems to offer the Roast and Crown or Spice Road table. Are any of the restaurants available? And if not, are either of those any good? I'm aware that you love the Sweet Spot. That is the only place that you can actually see everything. So I'm wondering if it's worth just eating someplace else and standing there instead. All right. So, Chris, those are the only two right now. And, Chris, since you're from London, I'm not sure you think that Rose and Crown is, exotic. But Spice Road Table is actually pretty highly rated. So that is option number one. The things I would consider here are this. Number one, do you like this restaurant enough to pick it just for Harmonious? And number two, are you going to order enough food at dinner to justify the cost, as opposed to just walking around World Showcase and eating and then hopping into a spot for the fireworks? If you wanted to eat dinner somewhere else that gets really good ratings, right now that's Teppan Edo, Spice Road Table, actually number two, Via Napoli, Garden Grill, Rose and Crown, Le Cellier, Beer Garden, and La Hacienda. All of those are above average in EPCOT. So you could try any one of those and then try and find a spot for Harmonious. The alternative, Jim, is if Harmonious gets the individual lightning lane treatment between now and then, between now and Chris's visit, I would just buy the individual lightning lane instead of the dinner package.
That's an interesting idea. Though, by the way, again, just put a bug in Chris's ear. Back in November, we did very, very well. There's that spot in front of the Japan pavilion.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's why I mentioned Teppan Edo.
Yeah. I mean, because not only that, but we also saw a number of folks who were up on the second floor who had a spectacular view of the lagoon, and you're almost where you should be to see the show. And it's worth it alone for the crazy pyro launches right there at the waterfront by Japan.
Yeah.
But let us know what you decide, Chris. I'd love to hear what you end up with.
Yeah, so that might be the best option. Just go eat at Teppan Edo, come out of the restaurant, instead of going down 2 flights of stairs when you're done, just make a left, follow the second floor railing and walkway out to where it has a good view of World Showcase Lagoon, and just watch it from there.
Killer.
All right, Chris, let us know what you end up doing. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jim continues the story of EPCOT's CommuniCore, which closed on January 31st, 1994, to make way for interventions. We'll be right back.
Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. You know what's ironic? A lot of us out there will drop everything to go help someone we care about. I mean, we'll go way out of our way to treat other people well. But how often do we give ourselves that same sort of treatment? Seriously. We all want to be there for friends and family, but let's be honest here. You can't help those folks if you yourself aren't feeling mentally healthy. That's why BetterHelp Online Therapy wants to remind you that you matter just as much as everyone else does. And if you feel the need for some self-care, well, BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. More to the point, BetterHelp is much more affordable than in-person therapy. And you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. So why not give it a try and see why over 2 million people have used BetterHelp online therapy? As I mentioned a moment ago, this podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, which is why Disney Dish listeners will get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/DisneyDish. Again, that's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/DisneyDish. It's the new year, people, a time when we all set goals for ourselves, plan on finally getting around to those tasks that we've been putting off for weeks, maybe even months. And in my case, I am loath to admit this, but I suffer from too many subscription syndrome. When you're an entertainment writer and for work, you need to watch shows on Disney Plus and Netflix and Paramount Plus and Hulu. It's kind of a necessary evil. But that said, one of my goals for 2022 is to thin the herd, which is where Truebill comes in. Truebill is a new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgotten about. I know. A lot of companies make it hard to cancel subscriptions. That's what's great about Truebill. They make this process incredibly simple. Just link your accounts and Truebill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. Your Truebill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions so you don't have to. Now, let me tell you, folks, making use of this app can be incredibly lucrative. The average user saves $720 a year by using Truebill. Don't believe me? Listen to what Truebill user Becca L. had to say. Hands down, the best financial app I discovered. In my first week, I opened up $187 in unused recurring subscriptions. I'm obsessed. I never want to manage finances without Truebill again. So if you'd like to join the more than 2 million Truebill members who are taking back financial control, go to the App Store or Google Play today and download Truebill today for free. Don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today with Truebill.com/DisneyDish. Go right now, Truebill.com/DisneyDish. It could save you thousands a year.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
And we're back. All right, Jim, where did we leave off last time?
We were talking about John Hentz and George Rester, the designer of CommuniCore, and John Hentz, who at the time was the senior vice president of White Enterprises, and how they'd made that determination to lower the interior space of CommuniCore by 30 inches so people outside could actually look over folks' head into the exhibits and the expanse of Epcot Beyond. In fact, I've come across a wonderful story about how they landed on that 30-inch thing. John, who was actually quite tall, and George went down to the model shop one day and broke out a stepladder. And and the two of them literally kept going up and down the steps, to the effect of when could they finally see over all the people's heads who were in the model shop. And it eventually determined, okay, it's this step. And then they broke out the tape measure and it's like 30 inches. Okay, cool. Very low tech, but it worked. But John was incredibly hands-on when it came to CommuniCore. He wanted this part of Future World to have a huge impact on the public. This part of the park, rather than the attractions, face it, if you're in Horizons, you look at the world where we're the far off future, where we're living in space, or we're under the sea and sea colonies, or we're flying our cars over orange groves. That's great, but that's the far off future. But I want to talk about the future present. I want to talk about the future that's just over the horizon. And so technologies that people are actually going to be using sometime in the next 5, 10, 20 years. For example, touching a video screen and summing up an Epcot host or hostess who could then make a dinner reservation for you.
I loved that, by the way.
A listener wrote in, I'm sorry, I'm blanking their name, but talked about how this was actually one of their strongest memories from their family's first visit to Epcot, how their mom stepped up to the video and then began conversing with an Epcot cast member, which, again, is very different from how the television at home worked. You don't go up to the screen and touch it and Captain Kangaroo talks to you.
No, I remember, going to Epcot with my family in the mid 80s, and knowing that that was the way that you had to make dinner reservations, I ran ahead to make a lunch reservation at Italy for my entire family for that day. And not only that, but I remember the meal at Italy that my dad loved. Like, he was super thrilled with that. Yeah. So using that back in the days is like one of my best family memories of EPCOT.
And this is what John was trying to do. He was trying to display stuff as hands-on as possible that blended today's reality with tomorrow's dreams. And in fact, that's the thing when he met with would-be sponsors of exhibits for CommuniCore. It's like, look, you're going to be working with the Imagineers, but this cannot be something that's in the far future. It has to be a demonstration of a prototype system that is here today. This is also the space that's supposed to make you comfortable with computers. All of us who grew up watching 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it's like, this isn't going to HAL 9000 on me, is it? But anyway, Hench couldn't afford to be that picky. CommuniCore was huge. Its two buildings had 267,000 square feet of space that needed to be filled up. The next largest structure in all of EPCOT was the Land Pavilion, which was 130,000 square feet. Especially as we start to get close to October of 1982, John sometimes had to squint and go, yeah, okay, that's sort of future present.
You get less picky as the amount of space goes up.
There we
and
go.
Your timeline gets shorter and shorter, right?
Well, speaking of which, okay, we have the Travel Port, okay, which was a CommuniCore exhibit that was sponsored by American Express. By the way, American Express got offered this spot in Future World as sort of a thank you from Disney Corporate for coming on board as the co-sponsor of American Adventure. And remember, Coca-Cola was the other sponsor.
Did I ever tell you about the effort that I put in to finding the sponsored by American Express sign for the American Adventure after it was done?
No.
Like, I called the archives, both the American Express and the Disney archives, looking for the sign because I wanted the sign for my office.
Oh.
Never found it, but yeah. Anyway,
either a dumpster out back or some cast member's trunk.
Had I known that was a thing, now I know exactly who to call, but 20 years ago, no, I didn't. Yeah. Anyway, Travelport.
Okay, so Travelport in CommuniCore, if we think of Future World as a face of a clock and put Spaceship Earth in the 12 o'clock position, you travel the clock face. This is basically at where 2 o'clock is located. And this is where visitors to the Walt Disney Resort could get all of their normal American Express services and travel info. You could buy traveler's checks, you could get reservation assistance. But again, remember, American Express Travelport is located in CommuniCore in Future World, and Hench was insistent that corporations had to do something future present. So Have you ever heard of the World Festival Sphere?
The World Festival Sphere. Oh, it's the travel agent thing that was it Spaceship Earth? Or was it?
Its design was reminiscent of Spaceship Earth. It was a 14-foot in diameter sphere. Travelport was going to be a travel agency of the future where guests could experience various destinations before they booked their vacation package. So they work with the Imagineers, and I'm reading for the actual EPCOT Center press release from summer of 82. The sphere was going to be a magic crystal ball that then previewed exotic travel destinations from around the globe. So the concept powering the sphere, both ingenious and kind of simple. Say you're thinking of taking your family on a South American adventure. So the way the sphere worked is you'd first tell the attendant at this CommuniCore attraction you wanted to experience the Republic of Colombia, that Epcot host or hostess would then input the proper destination into the computer that powered the sphere. You then stepped inside, and for 60 seconds, music and images from that country would then wash over you. And very Brave New World-y sounding, don't you think?
I remember seeing, was it Morocco?
There we go.
Here?
Yeah.
And it was like, I came out of it. Yeah. My parents were doing something in there.
Yeah.
I came out of that going like, let's go to Morocco. Morocco looks cool.
That's it exactly. That it was outfitted with all sort of video and elements and theatrical, and the whole goal of the exhibit was, as you described, was to temporarily overwhelm all your senses, make you feel like you had to go to vacation to this part of the world.
I'd forgotten where this was. I thought it was in World Showcase, but no, you're right. It was in CommuniCore.
Yeah. From talking with veteran Imagineers, the prototype of the World Sphere, the one they built back in Glendale, initially had a smellitizer element. The thing that made you smell the sulfur pools and University of Energy, or you get that whiff of citrus as you're flying over the orange groves.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing, the smellitizer aspect of the World Sphere got dropped during the test phase because they learned the hard way that when you put the smell of spicy tapas, which was supposed to make you think, oh, I want to go to sunny Spain, but it would linger in this 14-foot in diameter sphere, which then it was kind of a nasal disconnect when you sent people in who wanted to experience the green forests of Canada or the... It's like, why am I smelling?
They've got hummus in Canada?
There we go. So, all right.
I remember that. That was a fantastic idea. I really enjoyed it a lot.
And remember, the whole notion of future tech. So same thing. We're still getting people used to the idea of touchscreen stuff. So do you remember in the travel port thing that American Express did, they had 5 different vacation stations where as you're waiting for your chance to get into the World Festival Sphere, you could kill time by standing in front of a television and, okay, I want to look at a 60-second thing that would tell you about a specific vacation destination. By the way, we have not talked about what's at the 1 o'clock position in CommuniCore, which was EPCOT Central, not EPCOT Center, but EPCOT Central.
Oh, this is the computer thing.
Yes.
I was fascinated by this. Like, honest to God, I remember seeing this in like 84 and thinking, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Was it the show that hooked you, or the six?
No. It was the room.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, the computer room. Yeah.
You've worked in computers for much of your life. And the problem with this show is you come from a pre-show space, which has 6 hands-on displays, and you take a step up because, again, you're looking down into a computer room. And, you're there in front of that wide bank of windows looking down at a bunch of beige rectangles. And then they start the Pepper's Ghost effect, which, if you talk about the version in 84, you had the young woman walking along the top of the computers and talking to.
Yeah.
Okay, the early version of the show, the Astuder Computer Review, featured a song that was written by the Sherman Brothers. It also featured a performance by Early the Pearly, a Cockney character who was played by Ken Jennings, and we can't let a show go by without a Sondheim reference.
Apparently not these days. Go ahead.
Okay, but Ken Jennings was actually in the original Broadway cast of Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. He played Tobias, the boy in the show who sang, "Nothing's going to harm you, not while I'm around," not like those murderous animatronics over at Westworld, but we won't talk about those.
God, that's a great analogy. That's funny.
Yeah, but trying to make computers, again, you're looking down into a server room, which is raised up by 2 and 3 feet because you have to blow all that cold air under them.
Raised floors, yeah.
And you're looking at all these disk packs, and and it is the least sexy space in the entire planet.
You say that, Jim, and I'm telling you, I saw that and was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, I loved everything about it. Like we're talking about this now, and in my head, I can still see the scene.
Wow,
that I saw. That's how much of an imprint that had on me. I loved it.
You say that, but it's like, I've seen the surveys, and one of the reasons the original Astuder Computer Show, it was one of the very first things to close at the original version of EPCOT. It was closed by January of 1984, and that's when
I actually missed it because I think my first trip was February of 84.
There you go. You got the second try at a show.
I got it. Yeah. But the funny thing is, you've heard the Astuder Computer song, right?
Yep.
I'll send us
a big memory like an elephant. Yeah.
And it's this weird, to your point, Cockney sort of vaudeville review song in a computer room.
Yeah.
In which, I mean, it's a memorable song, don't get me wrong, but not sure it sort of went. I mean, it didn't not go. It was, it's like ketchup, I guess, ketchup flavored potato chips. Like, if you like it, that's great. Okay.
But Disney's own surveys, the thing is that they had a hit out in the pre-show area. And in fact, it was one of the hands-on displays. In fact, they actually had people who would not go into the show that would stand in line for their chance to do this. And it was a demonstration of CAD design, a computer-aided design.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so remember, again, this is like 84. So I remember being like super impressed with touch screen
Yep.
computers. Like I thought this was the most amazing thing. And I remember, I'm not proud of this. I remember putting my eyeballs as close to that screen as possible to try and figure out how they were making it work. Like was there an electrified grid sitting over the screen that, somehow like made electrical connections where your finger was touching? Like I was trying to figure out how it all worked. Yeah. So, I mean, and then the CAD stuff was, I mean, not only that, but if you link it into the CAD stuff that remember that used to be in Imagination, in ImageWorks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
But the exhibit here that people would literally let the group go into the show for their opportunity, was you could build a workable roller coaster. You could select pieces of track yourself. And then once you did the entire layout, the monitor would then play the coaster point of view shot of, you riding the coaster you just designed. And people absolutely loved this. In fact, eventually Epcot Computer Central, they were getting so poorly attended. And some of it was the fact of where it was positioned. I mean, it was on the left side of the park in the northeast quadrant. And, I don't need to tell you from how people experience Disney parks. If you're on the left, you don't really get experience as people go into the park. And by the end of the day, people were just, I want to get out of Epcot. I want to go home.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, it's not a ride. For a certain subset of nerds like us, I guess everybody listening to this show, we probably ate that up. But for, 80% of the people that went in, it was probably like, well, that's interesting, but maybe not.
So you had this one exhibit at this underattended attraction at Epcot in its CommuniCore section. But this weird spike, and we love this, we want this. And so we jump ahead to June of 1998 to Disney Quest opens, and we get Cyberspace Mountain. The key difference here is, once again, guests can get in line. They can sit in front of a touchscreen computer. They can assemble their own coaster. But the difference is this time, they now get to ride it. They get to climb into a capsule and physically experience their coaster. One of the things I love about Disney is that's a cool idea. We need to circle back on that at some point.
And they did again a decade later with Some of All Thrills in Epcot, right?
Yeah, they did.
Which is design your own roller coaster and then get it in. And also, that's in Future World. So, that is super interesting.
One more installment here. We're going to wrap up the series with next week's Disney Dish. We're going to walk through the rest of CommuniCore and find out which aspects of this Future World space still survive today.
By the way, Jim, I know I've talked about it on the show before, but for people who maybe are new listeners, when American Express used to sponsor the American Adventure and the Travel Port, I spoke with, and I worked at American Express for 20 some years. I actually got to talk to the people who were stationed in Epcot for American Express. And Jim, it's difficult. There are two jobs in this world that are the absolute most difficult to get. The second most difficult job to get in the entire world is Pope of the Roman Catholic Church, right? That's an exceptionally difficult job to get. But the most difficult job to get in the entire world, and everybody knows this, is head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, and I'm not joking here. So dating back to 1966, fewer people have been head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers than Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. That's how difficult it is to be. Okay. But being the American Express representative at Travelport is like third on this list. And here's how I know, right? So when I was with American Express, every year you'd get a performance appraisal, right? And you'd be ranked from like 1 to 5 in 2 categories. One was your goals, like whatever performance goals you had for the year. And the other one was on leadership. And for American Express, 1 was the best number you could get. So you could get a 1 in leadership or a 1 in goals, or you could get a 1-1. But it was extremely difficult to be rated 1. Essentially, you had to be in the top 2% of American Express employees in that particular category to get a 1, right? So to get a 1-1 means you're like the top 1% of the top 1%, right? I achieved that exactly once in my 23 years with American Express, right?
Okay.
Double once. Very difficult to do.
Okay.
Right? So I was talking to the employees who were working in the travel port one day. I'm like, how do you get this job? And so the woman that I talked to said that before she had submitted her application, and in the application, you had to put your ratings for the last 7 years. So first of all, you had to be with the company for 7 years to even be considered for the job.
Okay.
Right. This woman that I talked to said she had been a 1-1 the last 7 years, which essentially meant she was the single best employee at American Express and basically picked that job as the thing she wanted to do. Like my mom, who was also worked for American Express and who was an excellent employee, was a 1-1 a couple of times. 2, maybe 3. This woman that was at the travel port was 7 times.
7.
Literally the highest performing employee I've ever met in my entire life. And so I asked her, like, okay, when the sponsorship ended, when American Express ended its sponsorship with Disney, I'm like, what are you going to do? And she's like, oh, I have to quit because nothing will ever top this. And then she did. She retired.
Wow.
But if you want a job like that as a third party, that's how difficult it was to get that job. It was basically impossible.
Boy, she really dodged the spicy tapas bullet.
I think she actually got me into my sister and I into a dinner at the Rotunda in the American Adventure. That's another topic.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right. We'll definitely have to talk about that at some point.
Fantastic story, Jim. A lot of memories here. This is great.
Cool.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for the Disney Dish show today. Please head on over to disneydish.bandcamp.com, where you'll find exclusive shows never before heard on iTunes, including the second half of our story on Disneyland's Flying Saucers. On next week's show, we're going to wrap up CommuniCore. You can find more of Jim at jimhillmedia.com and more of me, Len, at touringplans.com. We're produced fabulously by Aaron Adams, whose theme, The Kitchen, a multimodal upgrade, including fold-into-the-wall workstations, spice racks with USB chargers, and Zoom-friendly noise-canceling wall treatments, will be featured at the Billings Spring Home Improvement Show on Saturday, March 5th at the Metro Park Expo Center in beautiful downtown Billings, Montana. While Aaron's doing that, please go into iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We will see you on the next show.